Now, I would be remiss to not even bring up alcohol at all. So I want to bring up alcohol because many of you believe that it's perfectly normal to have a drink every night. As a matter of fact, I was talking to a client last week, and this particular client was drinking 3 glasses of wine a night, and in their mind, that was okay. That was considered a small amount. And I have some people like 3 glasses of wine. That's too much. But then they say, well, I only drink 1 glass of wine, right? 1 glass. Bottom line is, no glasses of wine at night is the best amount of wine to drink because even 1 glass per night will hammer your liver over time, especially when we fast forward, especially if you're using medicines, especially if your diet is incorrect. But you see here, this is a study, this image here, let's just blow it up a little bit. You can see here that alcohol, leaky gut, and liver damage. So here's what happens is the alcohol itself can create oxidative stress, so nitro-oxidative stress, okay, on the tight junctions. So if you recall, we've talked about leaky gut before, these little anchor proteins, also sometimes referred to as tight junctions, is that the stress from the alcohol can actually damage the tight junctions, leading to leaky gut. And what that does is it allows these little chemicals that you see here called LPS, these are bacterial toxins, it allows them to leak through into your bloodstream. And guess where they go first? They go straight to the liver. And research shows that these chemicals can create steatosis, which is an increase in storage of fat in the liver, but they'll create inflammation. And this is one of the mechanisms of alcoholic liver damage, is that alcohol, again, actually can create or set the stage for leaky gut. So it's important to understand that alcohol creates leaky gut, the bacterial toxins end up damaging your liver. So you can see here, heavy alcohol intake is known to cause gut leakiness, contributing to increased endotoxemia and inflammatory tissue damage in the liver and brain. Liver and brain, not just the liver, right? Liver and brain. Various pathological conditions such as HIV, obesity, and burn injury are known to increase gut leakiness and endotoxemia. In addition, binge alcohol and non-alcoholic substances such as high-fat diets, we'll get to this in just a minute, and fructose, we'll also get to that, can stimulate gut leakiness, leading to elevated serum endotoxin and liver inflammation. That's bad news. That's a bad combination. So those of you, maybe you've gone on the gluten-free diet, but you like your glass of wine, right? You like to have that glass of wine every night. Guess what? You're perpetuating the problem. And this could be why you're still struggling to recover, because you're still getting exposure to that alcohol. This is for one of the same reasons why if you ever have a yeast problem, like yeast overgrowth in the GI tract, what do yeast do? Yeast will take carbs. This is why I saw a comment earlier in the feed. Somebody said, I went keto and it solved my liver problem. What does keto do? Keto's a high-fat diet. It's a low-carb diet. When you feed yeast excessive carbs, yeast will ferment those carbs and convert them into ethanol, alcohol. And that in and of itself is going to lead to the same kind of damage. So you don't even have to necessarily drink too much alcohol. You could have a yeast overgrowth in your GI tract that you're feeding with aggressive high carbohydrate diet. So the fermentation byproducts of those carbs turns into alcohol. Your gut in essence becomes a wine factory, and that wine factory causes leaky gut and alcoholic liver damage, even though you might not be an alcoholic. I've actually seen cases of, it's known as auto brewery syndrome, where people were so drunk, but they weren't alcoholics. They didn't drink alcohol. They had such severe yeast overgrowth that the carbohydrates themselves made the individual drunk and created liver damage. So alcohol, I would suggest in your diet, if you're trying to recover, you've got to absolutely get alcohol out. Now, another compound that we need to talk about is glyphosate, because what is glyphosate in? There was a study recently published in most kid cereals and adult cereals, kid and adult cereals, were off the charts, were super high in glyphosate. Okay, super high in glyphosate, meaning you look at baby cereal, baby formulas for children, for infants. The rice cereals were off the chart. The oat-based cereals were off the chart. The corn-based cereals, the wheat-based cereals, all had heavy glyphosate. And glyphosate's a major problem, especially if you live in an industrialized country where glyphosate application is very common with farming. But you can see here, glyphosate, which is an herbicide, causes gut damage, is known to impact and affect the liver. So of its many functions toward toxicity, right, one of the tissues that can be impacted, that the liver has to cope with that excessive glyphosate. And again, that's aside from all the other potential harmful possible side effects of glyphosate. The liver can actually be damaged as a result of glyphosate. So again, let's go back to thinking about what I said a minute ago. Alcohol. What is alcohol made out of? Depending on what you drink, right? Wine generally is made out of grapes. Okay, but what about some of the hard alcohols? Rum is sugarcane. And you've got stuff like whiskey and bourbon, which is generally wheat. Corn. Vodkas often, most of your vodkas, depending on where they're from, they can be wheat. They can be also potato. They can also be grape. So look at your alcohols. A lot of your hard alcohols have what thing in common is that they're grown from these crops. These crops get loaded up with glyphosate. And so now we've got that residue showing up in the alcoholic beverage as well. So now it's not just alcohol. It's not just the alcohol creating the liver damage. It's the alcohol plus the glyphosate poisoning. And that's why let's just say you're healthy, you've been following No Grain, No Pain, you're doing really well, you want to have a drink. This is why it's so important that you keep this to a minimum in the long haul, but two, if you're buying alcohol, drinking alcohol, you want to look for organic there as well, because you want to try to ensure that you're not at least being poisoned by this nonsense if you do want to have a drink, an occasional drink. So again, sometimes it's the alcohol, but then the alcohol has the glyphosate in it. And there was a study done a couple of years ago on the quantity of glyphosate in wines, and it was also through the roof because a lot of the growers, they're using glyphosate to grow their crop. Hey, don't forget to check out the rest of the series right here. Make sure you hit subscribe below. And as always, thanks for tuning in.